Alok from California, him says, is being LGBTQ a choice? I wonder why you're
No.
calling in to talk Heathen to ask this question. Um, but maybe it's religion based, but it says you're an atheist. Alok.
Yeah, I think I mainly called because Katie is here, and I watched a transatlantic show, and it may not be
Nice.
related to atheism. And sometimes I wonder why we discuss it. Maybe we discuss it because the religious assholes discriminate against trans people and all that stuff. But I've been doing some research on this topic recently, and that's why I called. Maybe you can educate me, or maybe we can debate that. In the last 4 years, the number of people in the Gen Z generation who identify as LGBTQ has gone up from 10% to 21%. And I've read some other scientific articles, and I think the medical consensus is it is not a choice. 60% of these people, I think, identify as bisexual, which maybe could be a choice. So my only point was, we always say it is by birth, it is not a choice. The more I read, I'm more unconvinced of it. So I was just trying to ask you guys if it's possible if it's a choice, because it changes the dynamic entirely of the debate. Because if it's a choice, then maybe you can talk to the person and tell them, hey, is this the choice you're making? You know what you're going to face. This is what's going to happen. And it kind of doesn't make sense it's a choice because they are the most discriminated people. So why would you make that choice? But I think the Gen Z and this generation, even though they're more open to admitting it now because things have changed, I don't think in 4 years it would double from 10 to 21%. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm wrong.
Right. So I think this kind of, is it a choice or isn't it a choice? I mean, it's kind of a false dichotomy. No, I'm not accusing you of bringing that. It's the way that politics always gets boiled down to just yes or no on everything, and then there's no room for like nuance or anything. What I usually say is, I'm saying, oh, it's not a choice, and that's what I'd say when I'm talking on some politics show where I get 1 minute to do a soundbite or something. And the reason I'd say that is I'm communicating that it isn't like I'm just going to be gay today, like some kind of freestanding choice. But that isn't me making the claim that being LGBT is 100% nature. And that's the only factor influencing it. I think all human behavior is a mixture of nature and nurture. I just think it's largely nature for being LGBT. And I think there's a number of reasons that I would make that claim. And I think, like you say, the fact that people are so discriminated against is arguably a piece of evidence. But also, we have evidence of LGBT people existing in cultures where there is, it's punishable by death, and we have evidence of it in every single culture in the world and throughout history. And that seems unlikely, given that would be unlikely if it was something that we had just kind of invented. Also, we have evidence that conversion therapy doesn't work. So you'd think if it was environmental, you could just teach people to not be gay. And there are a lot of people trying very hard to do that, and it's not happening. On the increase in numbers, and you mentioned bisexual being a choice, and I think I know what you mean here is that if you were born bisexual and like sexually attracted to men and women, and you were a man, and you grew up in a society that's like virulently homophobic, then you might just look at men, and then you'll marry a woman and you'll never tell anyone. And then suddenly you're in a society where it's acceptable to be bisexual or just like totally normal and no one cares, then you'll be more likely to tell people. So the rates, like in that sense, it's a choice to reveal it. And bisexual people have some level of choice about how to display their sexual orientation to other people, in that they can stay in the closet and still live a happy life with a partner in a way that gay people can't. Um, so you're right. In a society that's more accepting um, of LGBT people, then we would expect the like bisexual people coming out more. We also have, I mean, we do have a similar thing. I mean, in history, gay people have married in straight relationships and have even come out quite late into their lives. So we do see a lot of pressure to be heterosexual, and the same with a lot of pressure to be cis. Um, for trans people, there is a kind of a weighing off of the pros and cons in transitioning. Obviously, gender dysphoria is horrible, and some people have it so bad that they get into this position where it's like, I will transition, even if I lose all my friends and family, even if I'm fired, even if I'm kicked out of my church, even if I'm lost from my community, because I just have to, because it's transition or death. Lots of people aren't that. None of this is like a strict binary. There's a range. It's like any sort of medical condition where you could have a really bad headache or not such a bad headache. And if you have gender dysphoria and it's quite bad, but it's not like do or die on transition, then you might be able to force yourself to live some kind of life and existence. Or maybe gender dysphoria isn't that bad at all. And then as society becomes more accepting, the cost risk or the risk reward ratio changes more in your favor, and you'll be more likely to come out. So I think that's a factor in it, and I think there's some evidence for that, in that we can see that trans people exist in every society, but in more accepting societies, more of them come out, and they come out at earlier ages as well, which is an important factor. Like when I had gender dysphoria when I was a kid, and I wished I was a girl when I was a kid, but I didn't know that was a thing until much later in my life. And now all these kids know it because it's on TV, and there would be lots of people who would be coming out later in life. And also, so we don't just, it's not just that as people become more aware, then people are having more courage to come out. It happens quite a lot faster because there are loads of people all of a sudden of this whole generation who are being taught about LGBT issues, and they can learn about it from the internet. And all of a sudden they, that whole generation is given that knowledge, and so all of the trans ones there will come out. So I guess to your thing about being less and less convinced it's not a choice. Oh, sorry, one other point was you were saying about it changes the nature of the like discussion or debate or whatever. I would say, I mean, I think trivially so for sexual orientation, if it was a choice, like a totally free choice, then they should be allowed to choose that. It doesn't affect my life at all if you're gay or straight or bisexual or anything. Like, it really makes no difference to me. And if I'm offended by it, then I'm just a loser. Like, who cares? Fuck off. If we discover tomorrow, scientifically proven fact, being gay is a choice, then we should still have gay rights. We should still have gay marriage. Gay people should still be allowed to adopt. There's nothing wrong with gay people or being gay at all. And for trans people, I would argue the same. I think. So I'll just finish off and then I'll give you the last thing. Just on trans people, I think that people should have bodily autonomy and the choice to control their own body and choose who they are. I mean, whether it's a choice or not, we do know that like transition improves people's lives, so we have some scientific evidence for it. But I mean, we let people do all kinds of dumb stuff. I mean, even if transition didn't really improve people's lives, I mean, we let people smoke. That's a stupid choice. So, anyway, what do you have as a response? Unless Johnny wants
because
to
of the time, because of the timing, the last two things were, I personally couldn't care less if it's a choice or by birth, but I've been arguing with zealots and even moderate theists that it's not a choice, and the latest medical research and everything I'm saying, it rubs me the wrong way, and I couldn't care less. But I think if that is the fact that some of it is choice, some of it is birth, some of it is a mixture, we should represent the truth, because the atheism relies on facts, right? And then the last thing was what Johnny was asking, why? And the last thing was what Johnny was asking, why is it part of our atheism shows?
Oh, I'll tell you why it's part of our atheism shows, and I'm going to let you go while I answer that question, Alok. I really appreciate that you called, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to drop you. Please call again with your good questions in the future. The reason why this is part of atheism shows, and even though, and I think you're on the side that I am about this, is that the reason why I think a lot of people are against the LGBTQ community is because they've been indoctrinated by their religion to say that there is a very specific role that a person born with XY chromosomes has, and a very specific role that a person with XX chromosomes have, and the XXs have to have long hair and have to crank out the babies. They need to be subservient. They need to let the XY chromosome people be the leaders in the family, leaders in the community. They need to shut the fuck up and listen to what they have to say. They say this on various different levels. They say this with various different words. They usually couch it in terms of the dignity of motherhood and the high responsibility of managing a house. But ultimately, it comes down to, if you're a gal, shut the flying fuck up and listen to the men because of religion, or because Jesus says so, because Genghis proclaimed it so, or Muhammad, or whoever the fuck ever, Sky Daddy, right? That's why it comes up, because I can't think of any legitimate reasons outside of superstition and dogma for these rules to apply to anybody ever, right? That's why it comes up.